everyone. Hi, Louise, and hi, Tina.
Hi.
We have an extra face on the screen this week. I'm so excited. Welcome to Kickass Conversations with Kim and Louise. We are visited this week by Tina Baxter. We're going to tell you Tina's story in just a little bit, but we want to start how we always do by jumping in and talking about what we're celebrating this week. Louise, do you want to kick us off? What are you celebrating?
I am celebrating my community this week. I'm celebrating the folks who jump in and help me out, and where I get to help out too. That's a big part of it, part of who I am and what I love to put out into the world. So it's been a really fun week to dive into getting the support that I need from the people who have it available, so that I can now support others in that way. So it's been really cool around my community and who's all involved in it, who's there. That's what I'm celebrating other people today. That's what I'm celebrating.
That's a beautiful thing. Tina, what are you celebrating today?
Well, I am actually in the midst of a 30-day gratitude challenge.
Nice.
Where I go live on social media every day for a few minutes, and tell what I'm grateful for. So I have to say today, I'm most grateful just to be here and to share with you all.
That's wonderful. Well, we are grateful to have you here. And so Louise and I am a U.S. citizen living in Canada. Louise is a Canadian citizen living in Canada. But yesterday was Thanksgiving in the U.S. And while I missed being with my family, I loved seeing all the pictures of them. I'm actually super grateful that it's a very quiet week for me this week. And I'm not in the middle of the brouhaha. And, people, my email is filled with, I'm sure everybody's is, with all the Black Friday deals. And I'm just deleting and ignoring. And the other gratitude that I have is I had a really kick-ass conversation with my own business coach today. And I am lit up excited about things to come. So those are the things that I'm celebrating today.
Yeah. I love it.
And we are super excited that, Tina, you are our willing person to jump in and be our first guest as part of the Kickass Conversations. We've been doing this for 6 months with Louise and I, and we're so excited to have you join us. I am going to pull up. I just lost it because I'm ridiculous. No, there it is. All right. So here we go. It's all an experiment. Tina Baxter is an advanced practice registered nurse and board certified help me out here, Tina.
Gerontological.
Thank you. Nurse practitioner through the American Nurse Credentialing Center, who resides in Anderson, Indiana. Mrs. Baxter Tina has been, I can't do the Mrs. Baxter, I'm sorry, has been a registered nurse for over 20 years and a nurse practitioner for 14 years. She is also the owner of Baxter Professional Services, LLC, a consulting firm providing legal nurse consulting services for attorneys and insurance professionals, wellness and chronic disease management coaching, and customized educational and operational resources to healthcare organizations. We are so excited to have you here, Tina. For a hot minute, was in the healthcare system on the nonprofit side. So I'm excited to hear about what you're doing. I was also a practicing attorney in the estate planning world. So I feel like there's all sorts of exciting things you're going to share with us. But we would love to know more about you. Louise, what do we want to know in particular?
I love, Tina, that you're our first guest, because I know that when I saw you and connected with you online, it was like, what does she do? Because I've never even heard, like Kim said, some of these words, I never even heard of them. I had to Google them. And to see what you've kind of manifested as a career and as a profession, I'm always fascinated about how people get to where they are. And so I know our listeners would love to hear a little bit about, like, what's your crazy career journey been like? How did you end up here doing what you're doing?
Well, I have to say, it's kind of, because it was Thanksgiving yesterday. I'm in my hometown near it, and so I'm sort of back where it started in Toledo. But I've always had an interest in science and health, even as a kid. So One of my favorite Christmases was the Christmas I got my chemistry set and my microscope for Christmas. Um, I actually was I'm a nerd. I'm just gonna point it out there. It's okay. I'm quite comfortable with that. Um, and I had a laboratory in my room. You know, we had a little room off the side of our room, and so I turned it into a research lab. I had protocols. There's a picture of me in my white lab coat at Christmas with my chemistry set. And so that's really started my fascination with science. And it was through that I took some classes, extra classes in science, and got a chance to work in the summers through a program at what was called the Medical College of Ohio back then. And I worked in the lab for 3 summers. 2 summers I worked in the lab where we did the blood draws, and you had the blood, you put them on the auger plates. I'll never forget the smell of an auger plate, I'm telling you. And you run it and you watch it grow something. But then my last year working in the lab, I was the queen of poop. Because they were so short staffed, I worked there for the past 2 summers. They gave me my own section, and my job was to test all the poop for rotavirus. And that for me was just an interest in science and learning about our bodies and how they work. And so I went to school at Taylor in Indiana and got a degree in biology, and had thought about possibly, I was planning on going to medical school at the time. So I took the MCAT and everything, and then I couldn't make myself apply and go. And this is why I spent 2 weeks with my cousin who was a wonderful physician, but I realized all he did was work. All he did was go to work. He had all the toys, but he never got to play with them. And I thought, there's got to be something more. And so in the middle of all that, I was a 5th-year senior at a very expensive private Christian university that my parents were paying for. I decided to change majors. So I called up another very expensive private Christian university and said, let me in. And they did. But my parents decided I was paying for this one because I spent 5 years at the other one. So I ended up with a degree in biology and a degree in nursing. So I had 2 bachelor's degrees. And it's because I got a job working in a nursing home, and I'd had experience volunteering, but I didn't have experience working in the nursing home. And I saw what the nurses did, and I thought I could do that because I wanted to know more about the individual, not just their disease, but I wanted to know about you as a person. And I was more interested in that. And I found that nursing had a way to do that. And so I called them up 3 weeks before the semester was supposed to start. And I said, let me into your program. And they said, first you have to get into the school, the university. And I said, okay, I'll transfer in. So I did that. And then the second week they said, well, you got to get into the School of Nursing. So I called up the School of Nursing and said, let me in. And they did. I had no idea how hard it was supposed to be to get into nursing school because I just called up and said, let me in. And because I already pretty much had a biology degree, they just said, sure, we'll let you come in as a sophomore. So that's how I got started in my nursing. And I realized my first day of nursing school, I had met my tribe. This is where I needed to be. And I'm always say that nurses can do and be anything. This has been a career where I've done so many different things, from working inpatient in the hospital, outpatient, private practice, now running a business of my own. Nursing is so versatile. And that's what I want other nurses to hear, is that maybe you're a little burnt out at the bedside, but there's something else you can do. You don't have to throw out the profession. You can leave your job, but you don't have to leave the profession.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that element of not leaving a profession but leaving a job, I think that's huge, because it is true in so many different areas and so many different professions that it's a job may not be working for us, but there's a passion still, and I can definitely hear it in you, a passion for the profession. So you have the passion for nursing, and it's finding where that fits in for you, is what I'm hearing.
Yes, I mean it's been an interesting journey, I have to say, because I never thought of myself becoming a nurse practitioner. That wasn't what I was going to do. Actually, I was going to possibly run the hospital. I wanted to be the CEO of the hospital at one time, and then I realized, no, I don't. um, but it was every little step that I took brought me closer. I was telling my mom a few months ago, I took broadcasting in high school and in college. Um, why? Because I ran out of classes to take, and I just, I liked school, so I just hung out. And I went into broadcasting. And my mom, her background was public relations, and she worked for a TV and radio station, so she was not happy about this.
Mm.
But I said I needed something to fill the gap, and it was great. And I told her, I said, I'm glad that I took broadcasting because now I'm comfortable on camera and behind a screen. And I never thought that years later I would have a weekly nursing news show.
Yeah.
Where I talk about what happens in the news that relates to nursing and healthcare every week, going live. I'm like, I never would have done that if I hadn't had that background.
That's super powerful, right? Because we pick up these skills as we go along the way, and they become part of our toolbox, and we don't think of pulling them out. Many people don't think of pulling them out because it's not part of their job. And yet what happens when we start to blend, when we've pulled these skills from other areas that we've picked up along the way, is we create this whole new amazing thing. I think that actually lends itself to the topic today, right? Is this idea of a CEO mindset. And it was funny, Tina, because you said you originally thought you were going to run the hospital, be the CEO. And here you are like, no, no, you do run your own business.
But you do run your own business. So I'm
Right.
really curious to know, like, how or why you took that leap. What's that like?
Yeah.
I never intended to be an entrepreneur. I actually thought of myself as an accidental entrepreneur on purpose. And here's what happened. As a nursing student, we're always hustling for extra money. As college students, we're always broke. So I became a CPR instructor. And so I taught CPR classes on the side. And different health organizations would contact me and say, hey, can you come and teach a class for us? And that kind of started me on the entrepreneurial journey, but I never thought of it as a business until years later when I started a business with a couple of friends of mine. And it was right at the beginning of the recession, 2008, 2009. And we wanted to help people get jobs. And we knew that nursing homes needed people. So we started a CNA training school so that people could get jobs. And at that time I was in between positions because I had left a position and I was living off my severance, and I thought, well, I just want space to write a book. That's what I asked her for. I said, I just want to leave some space for you so I can write a book. And she wrote me into being the COO of the company. So, but once I got that entrepreneurial bite, it was like, hey, wait a minute, I can do this. And it was the act of creating something that really intrigued me. And so fast forward, we had students in that program that are now administrators of their own nursing homes, and it's come full circle. One of my former students is actually allowing me to bring students to his building. I've had students that have become nurses, physician assistants. Former students of ours have become, one's going to medical school. So they've done a variety of different things. Some have opened up their own agency. So I get to see them progress, and that makes me happy. And that's what made me realize this is part of what I like to do, is to help other people get along the way. So I've been a mentor and coach, and I taught students and taught at the university level, and realized I didn't want to do that either. So you try things and you figure out that's not really what I want to do. And, kudos to my university colleagues, but that whole tenure track just wasn't for me. It was always on the terms of the university, but not really meeting the needs of the student. in some aspects. And so that's why I decided to do the independent route, have my own business where I set the hours and we can be flexible to meet the students' needs. So if they need an extra class on a Saturday, I'll throw a class on a Saturday for them because that particular cohort needs it. If they need a class later in the evening, I'll move it to later in the evening just to accommodate that cohort. So I have that flexibility, which is what I love about being an entrepreneur. And realize that I was in middle management at the hospital, and I've done this stuff, ran a unit, and discovered how that position is just so underappreciated. And I thought there's got to be a better way. And so I'm always looking for the better, bigger way to do things, and that's where entrepreneurship came in.
I love that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Such a key piece of, when you think about being that CEO of your own career, the CEO of your own business, you're the CEO of your own journey, whatever that leads to or looks like. And that really is like the CEO has that big, right, that big umbrella look, has that altitude that's a little bit higher. So you can strategize, right, a little bit differently.
Yeah.
It's not just about like how to get it done. I think sometimes we get sucked into that how piece, and we are like the middle management of our own careers, of our own business, because we're stuck in the how. We're stuck in the how to get it done, and we don't step back to say, like, what's the purpose, or why are we even here? What's the whole meaning of my business or my career? And when we can kind of step back, we're actually take that mindset, that CEO mindset, to look at things a little bit differently, a little bit bigger. And then what I heard you say was like I didn't know I was right. I didn't know what I didn't know, but now I knew what I wanted and what I didn't want. And because you could step back and have that bigger view, that larger picture view, you're able to find now this way to move forward that's so unique, and then just serves like all of the things that you want to do, serving you and serving and helping you serve others.
I've always wanted to be a teacher ever since I was a little girl. But I realized I wanted to do it on my own terms. I have a master's in nursing education. That's something I didn't say. But I also have a master's in nursing education because, as what's typical for me, when I go and start a training program or a new degree, I like other things. So I ended up with, for the first time, a biology degree with a minor in French and a minor in Bible, and then a nursing degree with a minor in psychology, and then a master's in nursing education and a postmaster's as a gerontological nurse practitioner who works with older adults. And so one person told me and called me a multi-passionate entrepreneur. And that's kind of been my whole life. I'm interested in so many different things that one thing would probably drive me crazy. And not everybody's built that way. But I think if you're going to be the CEO, oftentimes you have to have that ability, as you say, to step back, get that bird's eye view of everything. And one thing that I've come to know is that everything that I do, even though it may seem very different to a lot of people, all of it flows together and operates from one thing, that I want to serve and make other people's lives better. And when I look at whether or not I'm working with an attorney on a case, or I'm helping a student become a CNA or a QMA, or I'm helping a nurse build her business, I'm all coming from the area of service, and everything really kind of flows together. And the things that don't flow, I've learned to remove them from what we do.
Yeah.
So we had a variety of different projects that didn't pan out. We tried to get into the genetic testing business, and the company that we were with, the startup, and they ended up closing. It was a startup, but we tried different things, a variety of different things. And so when I figured out what worked for us, which actually fit into our core values, Those are the things that we focus on. And then other things that may seem like a great idea may not be the right idea for us, but maybe we can turn that into something for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, there was a nurse, I heard her listen to a podcast, and there was a nurse, she was a school nurse, and she had this lice removal business. She was doing really well. So I checked the market. We were well positioned. There were only 2 other franchises in the state. I'm like, we were right in the middle of the state. It would have been great. It would have been perfect for us to open up this franchise. And I did all the research, looked at how much money we have to put in. And then I realized I don't want to remove lice because I hate lice. Even the thought of it when I was a nurse in the unit, I used to hate it when I have to do that. And I thought, why would I want to do this? This is not the right business for me. I would be miserable, but it might be the best business for someone else. And so
Yeah.
I always tell when I talk to my nurses and I talk to my fellow sharks, I say, listen, you need to make sure you find a business that you're going to want to go to every day. Don't just choose one because it looks good on paper, because it may not be the right business for you. And so we talk about it. I had one nurse that she wanted to have a home care agency, and the more we talked about it and we started working through it, she really wanted a staffing agency. She didn't want a home care agency.
Mm-hmm.
She wants a staffing agency. I said, well, that's a whole different animal. So let's look at that, because you'll be miserable doing this home care agency because you don't really want to do that. What you want is to provide staff to other places. That's what you really want. And that was for her a big epiphany, because that changed everything that she was about to do and get into, because the more we talked about it, the more she hated the idea of going to work every day. And I was like, this is your business. Choose something you're passionate about.
Yeah. Well, and it's, you talked several times about just trying, right? Sometimes you just have to try because you don't know. I mean, I'm right with you on the lice. I worked in a school for about a decade, and I became one of the lice masters because I wasn't grossed out by them, but I certainly don't want to spend my life removing lice. That's just not at all what I would want to do. But we want to try. And when I think about that CEO mindset, the CEO mindset is somebody who's courageous enough to try, is creative enough to kind of look and say, what are the options? Right? That to have the mindset to be open to what are the possibilities. So what are the options? What are the possibilities? Where can I be creative? Where can I, and you also said something a little earlier where it was the act of creating something, right? Being in that creative space very much is part of this CEO mindset as I see it. And so I love that you've embodied it, not just for yourself, but for the people that you work with and that you're mentoring and that you're training as well. You're creating that CEO mindset, because again, like Louise said, we very often go into the space of managing our time and managing our businesses instead of being the chief executive officer, instead of actually being in that place of strategy and moving ourselves, elevating ourselves, and thereby our businesses up into that CEO realm.
One of the things that happens is that when you're the CEO, if you're not good at communicating your vision and where you want the company to go, the people that are following you kind of get lost along the way. So you really need to be a good communicator. One of the things that we talk about is, again, setting that vision and you're changing your mindset, but also being able to declare that vision and to know where you're going. So we build a roadmap so you know where you're going as we go along the way. And don't be afraid to try off on something different. Like, I thought the genetic testing was interesting, so we gave it a go, but it didn't work out. But I didn't cry over that, right? It was something we tried. I realized it's something I really wasn't that passionate about, but it was okay. And it would have, been lucrative, but it didn't work out. And I didn't beat myself up over that. We tested it out. And that comes from being a scientist and knowing that you test your theories, you test these things out. Does this work? And so it may not work. When COVID happened, everybody was really like, oh, my business shut down. And I'm like, we kind of were already pivoting because of the way we're structured, that we did a lot of stuff online anyway. So that just opened up stuff for us. So now I'll go attend a deposition and I'll be in deposition on Zoom, and I love it. Right? They'll send me my records electronically. I used to get paper records
Oh,
in
yeah.
these huge boxes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now they put them and send it to me electronically or on a flash drive, and I just have them, and I'm able to do my work. So it doesn't matter where I am, I can still do my work. I actually brought a couple cases with me. I'm on vacation, but I still brought a couple cases just in case I get some time. But, we've learned to be flexible because of COVID. And that's one of the things that you need to be as a CEO, is to be flexible and to trust the team that you put in place. I had a conversation with someone, and she was ready to expand her business. And I asked her, I said, okay, so do you have your training materials ready so that the person that you're entrusting to run this office while you open the other office will know how you want it done? And of course, she didn't have any of that. And I said, well, do you have someone that you trust to put in that position? And she didn't have any of that either. I said, so this is where we need to start. I said, we need to operationalize what you're doing so that if you open up another franchise somewhere, they could do it the same way that you do it, no matter where you are. It's the same with another person. She's doing very well in her business. She called me up and asked me for some advice. And the biggest advice I gave her was, as CEO, you can't be out there on the floor every day working in the trenches. You want to be out there, but you can't be out there every day. You can't be getting up in the middle of the night, going to work a third shift if you in the morning have business meetings to grow your business. So you have to put a person in place. She was opening up another staffing agency in another state. And I said, get someone you trust to run that so that when you go open up in that other state, you have people that you trust. And I said, it's not sustainable for you as CEO to be out there working the floor every day and then expect to run the business and make sure the bills are paid on time, make sure your staff is being taken care of, all the training is done, keeping up with regulations. You can't do that. You can't do it all. And thankfully, she seems to have gotten a bigger team. So, yeah.
That's excellent. I think so. What I'm hearing here, that kind of coming from all of us, and particularly some of the things that you just said, is creativity, right? CEO mindset made up of creativity, courage, right? The courage to try, the courage to experiment, communication, flexibility, prioritization, and delegation.
Yep. Yes.
What else are we missing from that list? Anything, Louise? Can you think of anything?
Well, curiosity, for sure, right? And that whole, I don't know how many times a day, Tina, I say, to be curious and to set it up it's all an experiment, right? Like you're in grade 10 science again, and we all have these ideas. We all have these, hypotheses that may or may not work out, but we get to go and experiment. We get to go into real life, see what that's like, and bring that data. Bring that back and really have a look. Like you've done that, not just in your business building, but I heard that through your whole career journey, right? You were talking about I didn't know getting into nursing was supposed to be hard. I just did it. Like you set that up, you experimented to see what was going to happen, right? Any time that I don't want to work that's crazy to be a doctor and put in those kinds of hours, but it's that in real life, it's that getting that information, getting that knowledge and that data, and that, I don't know, can you put data? I know it doesn't start with a C, but I think data is part of being CEO mindset too. It's that whole.
Well, I think that comes from curiosity. Curiosity feeds data, feeds curiosity.
Yeah.
And I want to say this, you can't do this and be a CEO alone. It comes with building relationships. How I got into graduate school is another story of relationships. When I was in undergrad in nursing, I was on the state board of nursing, the Indiana State board of nursing, not the board of nursing, but there's nursing association. That's it, ISNA. I was the student liaison on the board. And so the then president of the organization was there, and she happened to be the dean of the College of Nursing at another university. So because I served on that committee with her, and she knew me from that committee and my work on that committee, then when it came time for me to go to graduate school, and I was working as a supervisor on evening shift, and I was going to take this particular course to further my career, and I took it for graduate credit just to kind of test the waters to see if I could work full time and go to grad school full time. So I applied and everything, and took it for credit. And she goes, "Well, why haven't you applied to the full university and grad school?" I said, "Oh, I don't want to take the GRE again because I took it." And back when I graduated with my biology degree, in order to get your degree, you had to not only take the GRE general test, but you had to take the biology subject test and pass that. That was like your final exam for your degree. That was horrendous. Okay, that was like 3 days of testing. So I said, I didn't really want to do that again. I want to take the GRE again. And so she said, "Well, you should come." I said, "Well, then I don't know if I could pay for it." All the excuses that we make. She sent me a letter in the mail that said I had been provisionally accepted into graduate school and the F&P, I was family at that time, the F&P program, and to show up for class. But it was the power of that relationship and just showing up and being present. And this is what I want to say to so many people: you can't neglect the relationships. You have to get out there and meet people and have genuine conversations with them and be supportive of people, and they will in turn be supportive of you. I've had some wonderful mentors in my life throughout. I mean, I didn't do this all on my own. I had two very great nursing mentors at the hospital where I worked. One, she was a vice president of nursing and outreach, and she took me to the whole big corporate conference with her. Made sure I got to go. Made sure that anything that was in the managers, we had this hospital university where they teach you leadership and things like that. She made sure I went to all those sessions and put me in it. And it's because of those relationships that I can say I've been successful, because people poured into me, which makes it so much easier for me to pour into other people.
Absolutely.
And
I call those conscious connections, right? We make those conscious connections throughout our lives. And it's not, we're not making them from a place of, like, we're not grasping at something. We're not asking people to do things for us. We're genuinely connecting, and we're creating those connections consciously.
Yeah.
It's pretty huge.
I don't know. I just want to say, so for folks who are tuning in that are only on audio and you can't see Kim and I and the smiling and the nodding we're doing when Tina's talking, it's fantastic, because these are the things that we talk about all the time. And I mean, what better place to talk about it, to be surrounded by, folks who are wanting to do those things that you want to do to help support you. Well, and that's why, Tina, you had asked us about, our podcast and our collective. And that's why we started the collective, right? Your Kickass Career Collective is meant to be that community of people and be that support, because oftentimes we just don't know what we don't know, and we don't know where to get the support that we need for that. So almost like we planned it, but we didn't, for you to talk about community and how important that is.
It is absolutely huge. And big shout out to you. Talked about being a multi-passionate, and I got very excited because I talk about it all the time. As a multi-passionate who supports multi-passionates, I think we underestimate the number of multi-passionate individuals there are in the world, because we've been conditioned and trained to think that we should just, it's okay to have 90 tabs open on your computer, but don't have 90 interests going at the same time, because then you're losing focus. And it's like, well, no, that's not true. Because as you said, Tina, and I'm very much the same way, on paper, people may not be able to see what all of the different career journeys that I've had along the way have anything to do with one another, but I know what they have to do with one another. Yeah. I know how they build on each other and work together. So kudos to you for embracing that multi-passionate self, because I think it brings such a level of flavor to the world when we can know that all of these things are important to us, and we are capable of doing them all, because we're kick-ass human beings, quite frankly. Yeah, go ahead.
I've always had that healthy curiosity, and my parents never told me I couldn't do things, so I always just thought I could. So I just wanted to jump out there and give it a try. I actually tried family for a while because I tried peds, and I never done pizza, so I'll give pizza a go. I love children, but I realized taking care of them terrified me. I'm like, what if I mess up? What if they, And so what I missed was the older adults because of that lived experience that they had and they could bring to the table and those conversations that we could have. And I found myself really sad when that rotation ended. And I kept thinking, well, maybe I could just go visit and hang out for a while. And then that made me realize I'm in the wrong program. So I want to say, don't be afraid to make a change. You try something and it may not work out. It may not be what you thought it was going to be. And I realize I love working with older adults. That's what I'm passionate about because I feel like sometimes they get forgotten, particularly as I get older. I think they get forgotten, right?
Yeah.
And I tell my students, older adults have lived a life and they still have life in them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've attended weddings at the nursing home
Oh.
because, they fell in love again later in life and they were able to move out because they were able to take care of each other. So I think that's wonderful.
That's
So,
beautiful.
yeah, I just because one phase of your life ends doesn't mean that life ends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that's very important when you're in the journey. It's the same with business. Your business may have done the thing for so long, but that thing's no longer working. It's no longer valid. Nobody wants it anymore. I mean, let's think about the places that used to sell videos, right? Blockbuster is a good example.
Mm-hmm.
Blockbuster was huge. You go, you pick out your video, you try to find the one, get there before everybody took the good video that just came out, right? I still remember Be Kind, Rewind, right? VHS tape.
I was dating a guy who ran our local Blockbuster, so I always got to get the ones that were just coming out. So that was the tip that I have for that one.
And now what do? We Netflix and chill,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that model doesn't work anymore. It was great back then,
Yeah.
but now we have to move forward. So don't be afraid to shift and pivot and change and grow. There's always growth to be had. I love that quote from Steve Jobs that after he lost, Apple the first time and they kicked him out. I always thought, how did someone kick you out of a company you started? But anyway, he was grateful for that, he said, because he had better ideas later on. So that's what I find is wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. And definitely speaks to that CEO mindset, right? Of how do we think expansively?
Exactly.
How do we have all of these things: creativity, communication, curiosity, courage, flexibility, prioritization, delegation, connection, right? How do we live with all of those things? And I think it does come under this idea of whether it's our businesses or our jobs for somebody else or our lives. We are the CEO of whatever journey we're on, and giving ourselves that opportunity to be that CEO, to see it from that perspective of growth and expansion, even when things feel like they're constrictive and closing in, or even shutting down and moving on. How do we create that opportunity for ourselves to keep growing and keep going? That to me is the crux of the CEO mindset. What I'd love to do as we're wrapping up towards the end of our time together is think about golden nuggets that we might all have. What are our takeaways from today's conversation? Those golden nuggets that popped up.
Yeah, I'm going to share first because there were so many, but the one that stuck out to me is that whole idea of like, if the model isn't working, like just try something else. And we can get so focused on just plowing through because that's what I should be doing or that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And to just take a step back, to take a step into that CEO mindset and just have a look, just like let's from the bird's eye view, what else is going on and where can I take what I already am doing into that next step or that next place, is fantastic. Kim, how about you? What's your golden nugget from today?
It's very similar, right? It is the idea that when we are in that CEO mindset, we're not in the mire. And I mean, when Tina was talking about we're not the ones working third shift and showing up to those strategy meetings, right? When we are in the CEO mindset, again, whether it's in our businesses, if it's in our role that we work for somebody else, or in our lives, when we can step out of the minutia of the space that we're not meant to be in, and they're all, we have them no matter what we're doing. When we can step out of that space of minutia, we are operating in a CEO mindset. When we can cultivate that curiosity and really be courageous and not panic, right? When we don't know how it's all going to turn out. That to me is really the golden nugget for me. Tina, how about you? What was your golden nugget from today?
I think just knowing that it takes a team. You know, it's really hard to be the one that's going to steer the ship, raise the sails, right? Let down the anchor, navigate. And so you have to have a team around you to help you do all the things. Certainly, if you're a solopreneur and you're just starting out, obviously you do everything. But as you grow, then you have to have a team. And so I've surrounded my people, my tribe, as I call them, that can help me get things done and what I need to do. I realize I cannot do anything on my own because there's so much to get done. And so I want to say for those that are starting out as entrepreneurs, don't be afraid to hire help if you need it. Help is okay, right? And so one of the things is I decided that I wanted to hire, my very first assistant was one of the young people from my church. I said, do you want a job? Because I knew I could groom her and she could do things that the way I wanted her to do them. And she learned so much. And then my second assistant happens to be a family friend and cousin who needed a job. And I said, because my other assistant's a long story, but anyway, she had to deal with her mother, and I needed someone right away. And I said, "Want a job?" And I look for people that maybe other people might not look at, right? Because they're not experienced or whatever. But I look at, can I help them and make them better? And if they, move on to something bigger and better, I'm happy for them. So yeah. Find that tribe, find that team around you.
So important. And yes, I am a big proponent of it's not too soon to get support. And whether it's paid or an internship, however you work that out with them is a huge thing. And we very much, I'm going to let you say it about building a community, because you talked about it before.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. When we're stronger together, which is the whole point of a community, of relying on people who are, one or two steps ahead of you or one or two steps behind you as well. Whenever we can support others and have others support us, it just builds a stronger business, builds a stronger career, right? When we're feeling grounded and we're getting all the resources and the support that we need. So yeah, if you're interested in learning more about our Kickass Career Community, our collective, Kim's popped up the your kickasscareer.com. Go on over there. Please check us out. It's phenomenal, for sure, and the great stuff that we're doing inside there, and the good stuff we have coming up.
Ooh, it's good stuff.
Also going to be a lot of fun, but we'll talk about that as we go too. So yeah.
So Tina, I know we included your links in the show notes. Is there anything that you have coming up that you want to make sure that people know is happening in your world?
Yes. So coming up very soon, we'll be launching another online challenge for those that are nurses that are out there that are interested in starting their own business, or maybe doing something a little bit different and taking your business to the next level. I'm planning on putting in another free challenge. It's free to get into the challenge, and that'll be coming up at the first of the year. And so I really want nurses to think outside the box on this one, right?
And where is the best place for them to get that information? Is that Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn?
Facebook is the best place to get that information. We're working on that now, and probably at the very beginning of the year we'll start launching the ads on. You'll see them on Facebook. But yeah, so on Facebook and Instagram, and then of course I always post everything on LinkedIn as well. So
fantastic.
And they can follow me on all the social media. So yep.
Great. And we do have those links in the show notes. So please check them out. Go follow Tina. And if you are a nurse considering starting your own practice, watch for that challenge because that sounds amazing. We are excited that next week we have our next Kickass Conversation is next Friday on decision fatigue. And our friend and guest, Amanda Neely of Wealth Wisdom Financial, is going to be joining us next week. So come back next week for our next guest, our next Kickass Conversation. Any last words before we say goodbye today?
I want to say, first off, thank you for having me. And I'm glad to be your inaugural guest on your podcast. And I'm just going to say, don't be afraid to dream big. Don't be afraid to play full out. And just don't be afraid to be yourself. Be unapologetically you.
I love it.
That was brilliant. We have nothing else to say.
Nothing.
Tina said it all.
Thank you so much, Tina. Thanks to all our listeners and our viewers. We appreciate you so very much.
Absolutely. Have a great week. Have a kick-ass week. Why did I say great? Have a kick-ass week, and we will see you back here at 2 p.m. Eastern next week. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Bye.